Okay, hello and welcome to the video making factory. I'm seeking to make up for my absence. Let's see if I can get the light better. So I'm currently uploading 2 videos and I'm exporting one. So that's 3, and then I'm gonna film this one, and I intend to film another one right after. Hopefully, if it goes according to plan, which I don't know why it shouldn't. So today. What I'm gonna do today is I have a small stack of titles, actually a pretty decent stack, but mostly DVDs, a couple of shameless Blu-rays, and a few world cinema titles, a couple documentaries, Swedish films, a few Clint Eastwood films. That's about it. Normally I would have waited for a bit longer until I had enough for a longer video. What I'm gonna do today, though, I'm gonna make part 1 into the update containing the items I just briefly listed, and then part 2 is gonna be an unboxing video including 4 titles, including these 3. I'm not gonna reveal which ones they are now. Why I'm doing this is because I was gonna make earlier this year I ordered a few things from 2 different websites. So what I was gonna do is I was gonna make 2 separate videos. I was gonna unbox the things, and then later on when I had seen them I was gonna come back and talk about them in the same video. And for one of those packages I watched the 3 first ones pretty quickly, and then the 4th one I still haven't seen. And it's not that I don't want to see it, it's just that I don't want to rush it. I just want to wait until the mood strikes me. So I don't want that video to be too dated, or I don't want the 4th clip to be tacked on or added on much later. So instead of that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna upload the video as it is, missing the 4th Blu-ray. So what you're gonna see is the unboxing of the 4 titles, and then the review of 3 of them, and then you can figure out which the 4th one is, which is then going to be included at a later date in some other video. So that's what we're gonna do today. It's likely gonna be a pretty long one because these 2 videos are gonna be medium length each, and it's gonna be the same video. So that's what I decided to do today. Somebody else might have done it differently, but that's what I am going to do. So if you want to watch the unboxing first, there's a timestamp in the description, and you can look at that if you want. Let's start with the Blu-rays here. So I have 2 Blu-rays, like I said, from Shameless. I have bought a few of their releases recently, and these are the last 2 that I had yet to watch. All the Colors of the Dark and The Case of the Bloody Iris. So I saw this first. I think I bought these along with The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, which I liked better than these 2. But these were good also. This one very effectively evokes the scenery of like a tall rise building. There's a murder in an elevator, creating some some tension or some blank. It's not a complete video without me blanking on a word, is it? But creating some worry from the people in the building. Clearly there's a killer at loose, and somebody lives at the top floor. There's a scene with them getting up there. They're nervous about having to go up there, having to use the elevator and so on. So that's what this is. The twist or the ending, you can kind of see it coming from pretty far away, but it's still clever. So I enjoyed it. The very end, though, didn't really make much sense. I feel like most of these Italian horror movies, they maybe not so much the giallos. I haven't seen enough of them really to be able to say. But a lot of the horror movies, like the zombie movies, they always had this devastating twist ending just because, for no fucking reason. And this one is sort of the same thing. It doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense, but it's not a huge problem. It's fun. All the Colors of the Dark. it was a little bit all over the place in terms of the story. I don't know which one I like better. This one has more of a, concrete story being told. Kind of like it's easier to think of as a film somehow. This one has to me felt like a bunch of individual scenes, not necessarily coming together as a whole, but being very entertaining along the way. And I know that that's sort of fairly sacrilege to say. I know that a lot of people absolutely adore this film, and I don't blame you. It's very entertaining. I like it too, just not maybe as much. Here I have, for Clint Eastwood titles, like I said, very cheap, that I got. I've been wanting to complete the collection of Clint Eastwood films. At least, maybe not all of the more recent ones, but at least the older ones. Honky Tonk Man. This one was actually good and moving, and Clint Eastwood gives a good performance in this. Towards the end, he is actually very believable in his role, and it's a fun road film. If you like road movies, I would recommend this. It's got a focus on music and characters. It's one of those films where a few different characters with a few, with different backgrounds, they kind of come together, and it's not necessarily a buddy film, but it's a sweet film in that sense because they experience this thing together. And what else can I say? It was good. It's not anything out of the ordinary, but it is a good solid movie. These three are more sort of thriller, I suppose, whereas this is more of a drama. White Hunter, Black Heart. I think I wrote something on Letterboxd along the lines of, I like the story and I like the ending. I just don't like how they pulled it off. It seems like they just really wanted to get to the ending because they knew, well, in the ending we really have something. Like the ending is good. In the ending we have something to say, the way we want to end this film. And indeed they do, but in order to get there it seems like they went through the motions a little bit, at least in my mind. So it was okay, but not great. Tightrope almost had a bit of a slasher feeling to it, so this one was entertaining. I don't remember all the details, but it was one that I enjoyed. And then this one, The Rookie, I didn't expect to like, but it's a completely batshit insane movie. It's sort of what you get when you let Clint Eastwood make films the way he wants, and then sometimes it goes maybe a bit too far. Yeah, this was really, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. It's very cheesy. I feel like I've talked about this before. Why do I feel like I've talked about this before? Anyway, sorry. What's next? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna save the documentaries, the Swedish documentaries that I have, for the end, and then I'm gonna talk about the rest of it first. So I do have a number of Swedish documentaries. So there we go. Now that's sorted. Here's a film called Red Sorghum. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but Zhang Yimou. I found this at a second-hand store. I don't know if this is available on Blu-ray, but it really should be, because this DVD is no good. The picture quality doesn't look good on my television, and it is a very visually appealing film. So I do wish that I had seen this on Blu-ray instead. Maybe the first time experiencing it properly, on Blu-ray, because the lacking visual quality of the DVD, picture quality of the DVD, it sort of made for a less effective experience, I feel like. But the story was still there, and the visuals, they were there. It's just that they would have looked nicer on Blu-ray. Here's a film called Ilo Ilo. It looks like this has been water damaged up here, but it might just be part of the cover, although I don't know why it would be. Maybe, okay, well, I don't know. Anthony Chen. So this takes place in Singapore, and yeah, and then so there's a Singapore Singapore family, yeah, and their Filipino maid who's coming to get work, and it's mainly about the maid and the son of the family, who's this kind of raucous, mischievous personality, and that, you know, their relationship mostly, but also highlighting the financial trouble, not just you know, of the maid, but also of the family. The father is struggling with his job and so on, and not the best drama film, you know, of world cinema in past years, but definitely good. I don't remember when this is from. It says 2013 on the back, so let's go with that. Here's one that I really, really liked. This is called, well, The Second Mother in Swedish. I don't know if that's the English title. I think it might be. If it isn't, then I suppose I can show you the original Spanish title, or Portuguese actually. Yeah, it's a Brazilian film. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and it's about this maid working for a family, and then her daughter comes over, and there's a bit of a culture clash, and there's also a bit of a generational divide, but it's not taken to dramatic extremes. It's being kept at a pretty realistic level, like most of the situations, most of the most of the dramatic moments are still pretty much grounded in reality. They don't feel like anything that wouldn't happen in real life. The ending is very nice as well, and so this one, there's an attention to detail that I really like here. There's this scene where the maid, she is opening up this. I have no idea what it's called in English actually, but it's like a, you know, a few like coffee cups, and then like a what was it called? You know, God damn it, I can't even come up with a word to refer to it. It's pathetic, but you know, you hold on to a plate or something, then you put the smaller plates on the bigger plate, and the coffee cup on the smaller plates, whatever. This yeah, okay. And she's sort of opening it up, and she's struggling to figure out, because there's one extra, and then there's a little comedic moment there, and then she walks out because she's, you know, there's a social gathering at the apartment, and then a few seconds later, the mother of the house, whom she's hired by, she comes sort of rushing in with her, like, no, 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 this is the cheap set of coffee cups. You gotta bring the more expensive one, so on, and so, you know, a nice attention to detail, and I don't know exactly why I liked it so much. It just it was a sweet film, a humanist film that I thought was well worth my time. And then here is a Spanish film, I'm pretty sure. I don't know what the English title is. I mean, again, take my, same thing as last time. Take My Eyes in Swedish, and here's the Spanish title, not Portuguese this time. This is about, it opens up with this woman who's running away from her husband. We don't really know the situation at that point, but we can gather that he is abusive to her, or she at least fears that he might be. And then the film sort of proceeds to give us the whole situation, and it does empathize with both parties. And yeah, that's really all I can say. Yeah, yeah. No, I really, I thought this was good, but I suppose it could have done something else, something more than it did. But I do appreciate the ending was really realistic. Again, it was really likable, and it didn't go too far. Here's a film by Claire Denis, which is the third film that I've seen from her. It's called White Material, which was definitely an interesting film with a really surprising ending. I would like to see more of Claire Denis, because I've liked, well, you know what, it's been a little bit hit or miss so far. Both have I I loved. This one I really liked, Trouble Every Day on the Fence, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of the films that I haven't seen will be to my liking. 35 Shots of Rum, I would like to get that DVD, and I'm planning on doing that soon, hopefully. Um, I showed this recently in a haul video, Emmanuel in Cyberspace. I was a bit confused as to whether this contained two films or just one, but it is just one. Um, it's called Emmanuel in Cyberspace, and I did watch it. I haven't seen any of the other ones, but I was too curious about such a title. It's one of the films, like seventh, I think, in the Emmanuel series, and I would like to see maybe the first one. And I also know that Valerian Borovchik directed one of them. I think maybe the fifth one. So I would like to see that just because of him being behind the camera. But the reason why I want to see more is not because I liked this one, which I did not. It was actually quite useless in most respects. I was struggling to really find anything about it that I liked. A couple minor things maybe, but it really wasn't anything very good. 101 Reykjavik, an Icelandic film. So I've always said this over the years whenever I find Icelandic films, that I'm happy about finding another Icelandic film because I want to see more Icelandic films. And at this point I've seen enough to sort of, I mean, no, I still want to see more, but now I feel like I've scratched that itch, if that is maybe not, that's not the most the best way of putting it, but I've seen a number of them now. Some of them have been better than others. This one was pretty. The main actor is pretty good in his role. And speaking of Spanish actors, Victoria Abril, she's been in some of Pedro Almodovar's films. She's in this as well, and so they speak English with each other. And the actors, they are quite good, but the main character that this guy plays, this actor, while he plays him well, the character he's so unlikable that it becomes kind of hard at some points to sympathize with him. And then it just doesn't really have anything to say. I would have liked this one more 10 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago. I think I would have had a lot of fun with this one. I did have fun with it for the first half hour, and then it just started to annoy me, and it sort of outstayed its welcome. By the way, this DVD I have shown before. I think I have. It's, as you can see, it's in not the best shape. It's an ex-rental. You can see the stickers from when it used to be rented out, but the disc is fine, so that's what matters. Okay, now to the Swedish films. I do have two more. I have two films that aren't documentaries, but everything after that is documentaries. So Hamsun, Jan Troell. I may have shown this before. I think I received this for Christmas, maybe last year. So it's possible that I showed it after that. But it's Knut Hamsun. He was a Norwegian author. He wrote Hunger, a book from. I have read the book actually for school. It was we were a very small group who took that particular course, and so we got to choose a book each, and I chose Hunger, and I forget when it's from, but I think it's the 19th century. I think it's the late 19th century, so it's a quite old. It takes place in Christiania, and the film was adapted onto the screen in the 60s, which is a favorite of mine actually. I saw it not too long ago, and here we have a film where we follow the author of that book, and a lot of it is taken up by his affiliation with the German Nazi Party, and it's a pretty sprawling story. It's pretty obvious what the themes are when you look at the back. I didn't like this scene with Hitler, but for the most part, I enjoyed this. I suppose that's all I'm gonna say. Now this one, okay, I'm just gonna show this. Linnea i målarens trädgård. Linnea in the gardens, in the painter's garden. So this I had this on VHS many years ago, and I would watch it over and over, and I wasn't aware that this was widely available on DVD in 2021, but apparently it was. So I couldn't resist, and I did write the same thing on Letterboxd. I don't like repeating myself. Not that I necessarily think that people will have read that, but I wrote that you know, with a lot of nostalgic films, some of the stuff that feels completely different than what you remember them, but this one feels exactly the same, which is pretty remarkable because it's been so long since I saw it. But it's like you know, it's like I put something on the shelf 15, 17 years ago, and it's barely dusty, and I was able to grab it right back off the shelf, if you know what I mean. And it's the painter refers to Monet, and it's I don't really know if it's a Swedish production. It looks like it. The spoken language is Swedish. There are English subtitles here too. I can see, but it's a sweet film, really. It was interesting watching it again now. I have two films from a director called Linda Westrik. So these are the documentaries. I don't know what the English title is of this. I do apologize. You may have to look this Swedish title up if you're interested, or I can maybe write the title here. Where was this? In Congo, in the heart of Congo, and she travels there to film these people known as Akka, and that's basically it. It's an ethnographic film showing this tribe, or this group of people, and how they go about their lives, and there's some political situations that make it difficult for them to do so, and there are some really raw, quite powerful scenes in this one. I don't know for sure how much I liked it. I think I liked it, but it hasn't really stuck in my mind as much as you would like. Fairly interesting for a one-time watch, I suppose. And I also found this Dad and Me. It's a sort of a diary film. She films her dad, who's very difficult, and he doesn't really want. Well, he's a difficult father. He hasn't always been present in her life, and she doesn't even know that he's her biological father. So she tries to get a DNA test done, and he's a little bit reluctant, but her mother is more supportive and easier to work with, so to speak, and it explores that dynamic. Again, I don't know. It was okay, not my favorite, but there you go. Here's a film by Jan Troell again. Närvarande. This means Swedish word for present. I don't know if it has an English title because I had never heard of this before. It's not one of Jan Troell's most famous films exactly, but it's a documentary, a pretty basic documentary about Georg Odner, who is a photographer, and I thought that this very efficiently examined his work and his mind, and it was very likable to me. Here's a film by Stefan Jarl, who is a very known documentary filmmaker in this country. It also contains a couple bonus films, which these DVDs often do, of his films, put out by this company, Cinemagi. And this documentary follows the what's the English word for hammer throw? Maybe I don't actually know what it is. There's not even a picture of him doing it, performing his sport here, so I can't show you what I'm talking about. But in the Olympics, in the well, anyway, Ricky Brush. You can look him up and you can figure out what sport I'm talking about. And it follows him as he, a little bit later in his career, he seeks to perform a new world record with by any means necessary, essentially. This documentary is quite notorious, or known at least, and I was glad to see it. I've known about this for a long time. Here are two DVDs about and by this painter slash filmmaker artist Carl Johan de Geer, and this one is called, this film is called well, it's his initials. And it was, I actually quite enjoyed watching this one. I had a pretty nice Friday afternoon watching this film, learning a little bit about this man. Here's a DVD containing three works, I think, or maybe three works by Carl Johan de Geer. One feature-length film and two shorter films here presented as extras. And they're hard to refer to them as any genre. It's a documentary, biographical documentary. You could call them essay films as well. Diary films to some extent, artistic projects put to the screen. They actually were quite interesting, but you know, I mean, ultimately I had fun with those two. I'm not sure that I felt very strongly about either of them, but I did have a nice time going through them. And then the last one here before the unboxing, for the people who decide to stay. 3 films about Sweden, this is called. There's some confusion here. This one is supposed to contain 3 films, 3 documentaries, but they've completely fucked up the release here. So I don't have much information about it, but I bought this from a website called Ginsa, very cheap. I forget the exact details, but there are actually 3 discs. Obviously, the title of the film on the disc is supposed to correspond to the title on the disc. God damn it. Sorry, you'd think that the title stated on the disc would be the title that is contained on the disc, is what I was trying to say. But that is not the case. For one of these, a completely different film that I actually have, a short film, like a short animated film, was included for some reason. I don't know how that happened. And on the other 2 films, the films are mixed up, so they're not on the right disc. I think that was it. So this one, it's hard to switch languages between in mid-sentence. Well, Once Upon a Forest in English. This is not available on here. 12 Months and The World as It Should Be, they are available. And I was glad, so even despite that fuck up, which is a little bit odd, 12 Months, it explores 12 different people or professions, or not necessarily professions, but different situations involving people of Sweden. Or was it only a part of Sweden? Yeah, it's specifically on Öland, which is a sort of one of the 2 islands just east of Sweden. It's part of Sweden, but it's its own island. It didn't seem to be anything interesting to me. This one, though, The World as It Should Be, follows 2 people who are quite passionate about model trains, and they try to recreate the feeling of the 50s through model trains. especially the guy. I think they were married. They were a couple. I could be wrong about that. But the guy who unfortunately died shortly after the film, I found out online. He was very interesting to listen to and to watch, and the whole film. I don't know if anyone is going to be familiar with the term unintentional ASMR. ASMR by now is pretty established, but unintentional ASMR is when you find this ASMR feeling, and if you don't know what that is, I'm not gonna explain it here. I think you probably do, but it's when you find this ASMR response within you from something that is not intended as that. So, for example, when I was once when I was sitting in the back of the classroom and there was a teacher whispering with one of the students' mothers who was visiting. We were solving math problems, and I could hear them whispering, and I remember my brain was melting because it was a pleasant sound, and I couldn't focus on the problems. That kind of a thing, like something that is pleasant, something that puts you a pleasant audio that puts you in a trance. There's a channel on YouTube called Unintentional ASMR or Best Unintentional ASMR, and this is very niche. But when I was watching the film, I was thinking that maybe I should supply this for that channel, but it would have to be subtitled, and I'm not gonna do that. But there are some things here that are very unintentionally ASMR. Like there's a scene where he is, the boom, the bar that goes up so that the train can pass. It goes down so the train can pass, and then it goes up, and then you can pass. He said something like, "This is the most action that I desire," or something like that. There's just something about things like that that gives me comfort, and just also just the fascination of watching this thing being built very minutely. A lot of zoom-ins on pencils, on model trains that take days to complete, and so on. But ultimately, it's just it's a document about somebody or two people who are building something in a creative way, who are very passionate about this, and that becomes the subject for very interesting documentaries usually. So I do apologize for all that ramble, but that is part one. I was trying to not take too long with this, so now to the unboxing. So unboxing time. A few titles here from. I mean, I have two packages on the way. Obviously, you'll know by the titles, so I don't really need to specify. But right now, I'm not completely sure which one it is. I think I know. And if so, that's very exciting. I mean, either way, it's very exciting. But let's open this up so that I won't say anything that doesn't apply to the titles we have. Yeah, so this is these are 4 Blu-ray. They should be 4. Yeah, 4 Blu-rays from AGFA, and I don't know much about these, I shall admit. Here it says plus Bleeding Skull, something weird which I've heard of. Bleeding Skull. So I was on Vinegar Syndrome's website because I've been curious about those for a while, and I've been jealous of American people and people with region-free players, which I used to have, but not anymore. But then I realized that a lot of the titles are region-free, and they also had these on the website, which caught my eye. I don't know. I didn't buy these from Vinegar Syndrome. I bought them from Wow HD, and as we all know, they ship from a different planet, so I'm surprised that it didn't take longer. And I'm also glad that I didn't have to pay import fees, because it does say the Netherlands on the box. I mean, all jokes aside, I'm not sure where they ship from, but I'm completely prepared to pay import fees when I buy from Wow HD, which I think only done that once before actually. I didn't have to pay then either. So yeah, I'm happy that I didn't have to pay import fees. I mean, these were about 200 crowns each, I guess $20 or I don't know, something like that. So I thought that was good. I mean, shipping and everything. I mean, well, they have free shipping on WoW HT. So yeah, I'm really excited to watch these. What I'm gonna do, I will have a quick look at these just to see what they are, and then I'm gonna come back later on in the video once I've seen these, and I'm gonna talk about them. So these are mostly kind of trashy titles that I have become increasingly interested in over the years, and it's been a very slow process of discovering these kinds of, well, this kind of cinema where perhaps a budget or experience is made up, a lacking budget or lacking experience is made up for with enthusiasm and creativity. And you have this kind of singular vision a lot of the time with cheap, low budget genre films where you don't really know what frame of mind or state of whatever I'm looking for, whatever word I'm looking for. You don't really know what went on in the mind of the creator of this film, but you are enjoying the spectacle. You know, that it's that kind of film that I'm hoping that I'm gonna get out of this. This is maybe a slightly different. This is the Scare Film Archives Volume 1, which is always a good sign when they write Volume 1, Drug Stories. So these are region free, by the way. Let's just make sure that they are. I mean, I did make sure before I bought them, so I don't really need to do that. But anyway, so they are. But these, this one is. So I mean, I suppose we can read off the back. What's the best way to prevent young people from destroying their lives in a downward spiral of drug-fueled jubilation? Obviously, the answer is sentient LSD tabs, spiders on speed, and an ex-junkie named Flory Fisher. So these are, yeah, I mean, educational drug scare films, especially. I suppose there are these educational scare films that are not drug related. And I've seen a few of those. I've seen one called The Finishing Line, which was pretty nuts. And I think there's one called Curious Alice on this Blu-ray. Yeah, so this one I have seen. This is the only one that I've seen. All of the other ones, Beyond LSD, The Bottle and the Throttle, Distant Drummer. There's quite a few of these, about 10, I guess. And they are, I mean, were these produced in the UK or in the US? It doesn't seem to specify. I think the ones that I saw on YouTube were mostly from the UK, but I could be wrong. Yeah, so educational films that can be viewed differently, so to speak. They tend to be very entertaining and over the top, and it's crazy to think that they were used for educational purposes, at least to some extent. So yeah, this one stands out a little bit because these three, I want to say, are low budget horror. I mean, this one obviously is Scary Tales. Scary Tales proves that the films of John Waters and Don Dohler aren't the only genre miracles from Baltimore. Shot on video horror anthology plays out like the public access version of Creepshow. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. And then there's a commentary track with the director, some outtakes, early horror shorts. This looks like a good one. So yeah, this is obviously really low budget. I mean, you can kind of, I mean, my camera can't quite pick these images up very, I can't speak today. My camera can't quite pick up these images in this badly lit room, but you can kind of tell that the picture quality is very cheap. So I hope that I'm gonna get something out of this. I'm sure I will. This one, Wicked World. This is thicker than the other ones for some reason. 1989, filmmaker Barry J. I can see it, Gillis and friends renewed the world's faith in Canada with the horror brain bomb known as Things. Oh yeah, Things is a film that I've been recommended by a friend many years ago, and I think I even knew about it then. And it's been one that's eluded me since. But there is a DVD of it which is region free that I mean, it's available on Severin. I think I'm not sure if Severin put out the DVD. I guess they did if it's available on their website. But like I said before, with Vinegar Syndrome, they carry other stuff too. Anyway, and Arrow does that, for example. But anyway, so I knew that some of the people involved with Things were also involved with this. Visually virtually unseen until now. Wicked World is not only Gillis's 1999 follow-up to Things, it's also a new form of genre anarchy. Experimental techniques, I like the sound of that. Gnarly ultra-violence. Feels what would happen if Salvador Dali injected acid directly into his brain while staring at a cannibal corpse LP cover. Well, it's got a lot to live up to. What are the special features here? Behind the scenes documentary. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to this. I'm sure this is going to be crazy as well. I'm not sure if it's horror. Well, it says horror. Surreal horror or avant-garde cinema. So this one I don't know much about. Tina Krause, 1999. After starring in, I do apologize for the lighting, but I can't do much about it when I'm sitting here in this corner. After starring in 100 movies over the past 2 decades, Tina Krause has established herself as an unstoppable warrior from the do-it-yourself fringes. Limbo is the first and to this day only movie written and directed by Krause. It's truly invigorating. Presents 3 days in the life of a woman named Elizabeth as she deals with identity issues, sexist mouth breathers, supernatural manifestations, and a possible trip to hell. So, yeah, man, this is gonna be fun too. Archival behind-the-scenes documentary, commentary track with Tina Krause and the Bleeding Skull team. Fantastic Fest Q&A, and then a short film called Answering Machine. Yeah, so I guess he made short films too, but this being the only feature-length film. Anyway, so that's sort of part 1, and if you stick around, we shall talk about these. Okay, so I think it's about 8 days later, and I've seen 2 of these titles so far, so I thought that I would talk about these 2 now before I forget. And then I'll move on to the Drug Stories and the Wicked World Blu-rays a little bit later on. But the first one that I saw was Limbo, and I have to say I really love this cover. I've always liked the combination of black and pink, or like a bright color. But black and pink, they really go nicely together. So this is a film by Tina Krause. As I said when I unboxed it, she is the star of 50 films, whatever it said on the back. And this is the first film that she has made. I wasn't really familiar with Tina Krause, with the kind of films that she made. It seems that a lot of the films she made were sort of erotic horror films. There was something called Wave Productions. There's actually a Wave production with Tina Krause called Eaten Alive on the Blu-ray, which I'll get to. The commentary or the Q&A, I forget where, but one of these pieces featured Annie Choi, I think that's what her name was, like I might be saying it wrong, Annie Choi and Joe Siemba. They were featured on the commentary, or Annie was the only one who was in the Q&A talking to Tina Krause. And she said something about, just to clarify to viewers who might not be familiar, Wave was some kind of a production company where you could send in your own stories and then they would film them. So it seems like that a lot of her films were part of that. But I don't know to what extent. I don't know if most of them were that, like fan-made stories that were filmed by a production team or by a crew, or if that was only a small part of what she did. But that was definitely part of it, and she seems to have made a lot of those kind of straight-to-video or whatever, very kind of cheap horror erotic films. So so that's basically her background, very briefly, and that's all I know a bit, after having gone through this Blu-ray. But in 1999, it took her about 2 years. I think this one came out in 1999, and she talks about it in the special features, like I said, and I'll get into them a little bit more in depth later. But she talks about how it took her about 2 years to film this, and there were a few different like constellations. There were actors who, for one reason or another, couldn't complete the film, and so they had to reshoot and stuff like that. And there was a lot of problems during the shooting, and it was like a shoestring budget. It was you can kind of tell. I mean, it's shot on video. It's very rough. It says right here. Notice this movie was shot on VHS and edited on tape. Please approach the technical quality of the transfer with empathy. So yes, indeed, the picture quality and the audio quality is very low, and they're sort of kind of murky, kind of almost meshing together, creating this interesting breed of a thing of its time. Like it becomes quite surreal and psychedelic in a way that, I mean, she talks about being influenced by David Lynch, so I'm sure this was, and how this is a non-linear experimental film. She says these things herself in the extras. But I don't know to what extent she wanted the film to come off the way I view it, meaning if she had a bigger budget, then I think she would have preferred to shoot it more professionally, or in a different way. But for me, viewing Limbo, it seems like one of those lucky things. The fact that she didn't have a budget, she had to shoot it this way. When you watch it all these years later, 20 years later, like I said, it becomes a thing of its time, and there's a certain charm to it, the way it came out. The fact that the audio quality is very low, and the fact that the video, you can tell this is a video, it looks like a VHS tape that's been through some damage. And that adds to it, that adds to the experience in a positive way, I would argue. So I don't know, maybe people look at it differently, but that's, I like the look of it. It is very difficult to hear the dialogue at times, which is why I'm very thankful for the subtitles. That I presume that they were created for this Blu-ray. Maybe I could be wrong. The film is, like I said, it's a non-linear kind of trip to hell. It was supposedly inspired by this chocolate bar that Tina Krause ate, and then she didn't know that it had all kinds of drugs in it, so she had a bad trip, and that's what she says. 20 years later in the extras, inspired it, and she's maybe a little bit like apprehensive to admit this, but she was like, okay, so honestly, this is what inspired it. She doesn't mention this in the archival behind the scenes documentary, again, which I'll get to a little bit more, but at least I don't think she did. I don't think she did. So it's a 55-minute film, as you can see here. It's quite short, but it packs a lot in to the running time. It stars this female character who I still don't know who she is, but what was her name? Catherine, the main character. She seems to be very troubled, very mysterious. She has this one-night stand. She experiences a lot of sort of demonic presence, supposedly, or I'm not sure exactly what to make of it. And indeed, you're not necessarily supposed to follow the film as a story, as a coherent story. But it is very, very much. It is very fun. It is. There's something about the audio and the video that goes along with the effects in a really disturbing way. It becomes rather creepy, and it's yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's it's an effects film to an extent. It's not a horror film necessarily. I mean, it kind of is, but it's hard to classify. But it was definitely fun, and I had fun with it. Um, and there's a million more things you could say about it. But so let's see about the extras here. The commentary track with Tina Kraus and the Bleeding Skull team. Um, they talk. They don't really comment on the stuff that happens on screen too much. Um, it's it's more, yeah, they talk more about behind the scenes stuff, I suppose, the making of the film. I would have preferred it if maybe they had an interview with Tina where she talked about all this stuff, so that they could then in the commentary address specific scenes, how she made this, for example, which they don't really do a lot. They comment on this, what's happening, a few times, but not too much. Then the archival behind the scenes documentary. I'm not sure where this was produced, because yeah, the film was never really seen. I mean, it was seen a few times, and then apparently there were some problems involving the fact that Tina was a female director, and so somebody told her, change your name to Steven Kraus or whatever, and then submit this film to the film festivals, and which she did that apparently, and then that did the trick. But I don't think it has been seen too much. So this is like a renaissance of this film that she seems very excited about in the commentary. But anyway, like I was saying, with the archival behind the scenes documentary, it's made it's filmed during the filming of the film. I mean, it follows the production of the film. It's only a short piece. But I'm not sure, because the film was so underground and low budget or no budget. I don't know who made the making of. If she did that herself, or if a friend of hers did, or if an outside team found out about this production and wanted to make a short piece. I really don't know, but it was very informative, and I really was kind of surprised to see it on here, because it is. It looks good. It's a good featurette. And then Answering Machine. It's a short film that I think she made around the same time, which is about 10 minutes, 7 minutes maybe. Which basically consists of, it's a couple, and there's no actors on screen, but you hear the voices. You see their answering machines as they keep missing each other's calls, this couple. And then this escalates. You hear the female voice on on the guy's answering machine, and vice versa, and then it escalates into something more sinister. Yeah, it was okay. Fantastic Fest Q&A. It's the first thing that is presented on the Blu-ray. Oh, no, actually no, it's not. But it's the first one that I saw. Yeah, she, it's a small audience. I suppose she maybe 4 or 5 questions from the audience. She is visibly nervous, but excited to be there. And then Eaten Alive, like I mentioned before, a Wave Productions short starring Tina Kraus. It doesn't necessarily star. I mean, she's in it for a few minutes. The starring role is somebody named Debbie D, I think her name was. It's a really bizarre film that has to be seen, really. So I'm not going to try to talk about it. It is rather simple, but it's very odd and very, very weird, but fun. So this Blu-ray overall, I thought was fantastic. So this was a good first experience with this company. Now the second one that I wanted to watch is this Scary Tales, a film by Doug Ulrich, I think his name is. 1993. So this is a horror anthology, sort of inspired by Creepshow. He seems to have been inspired by a few different things, and Creepshow was like the main thing. You have this quote-unquote crypt keeper guy telling the stories, or kind of in between the stories you have a monster or some kind of creature with like a book, and he introduces the next story before you're watching it or whatever. So it has that. It's got 3 stories, so 3 scenes with this monster guy who looks a little bit disappointing. I mean, I was hoping to see this creature in the film. Um, there is a creature that looks more like this guy in the 1987 demo version, and I would argue that the monster, if whatever we should call him, um, it looks better in the 1987 version, because in the feature length version you have a row of kids sitting sort of by the camera, and then you have a bunch of smoke, kind of maybe some green lights, and then a hooded figure whose only features are two glowing eyes, and then it's not, you don't see the face. So I was a little bit disappointed with that, but you do get to see. I'm not sure if this is the exact face that we saw in the 1987 version, but it's pretty close. So if you want to see this creature, then you have to check out the demo version. A lot of the ideas, they seem to have been realized in the demo version, but they're, of course, I mean, it's a 20-minute film, so it's much shorter. It's, visibly, I mean, I don't know, the whole thing has like a green look, like a green tint. It's like black and green, you know. And then the monster scenes, the crypt keeper scenes, they don't really have this look, but most of the film has this green look. And I don't know what that could be attributed to, if that was a setting, or if that was just the way it came out, because he didn't have, I don't really know why it would look green, if it's a matter of deterioration over the years. I really couldn't say. I don't know anything about those things. But most of the ideas, the three stories, they're sort of realized or laid out in the demo version, and then 6 years later you have the full version, which again, of course, much longer. It's it's still quite short, 70 minutes, but it doesn't really need to be longer. So you have three stories. One about a Satan's necklace. They find a necklace, and then it turns this guy, played by, what was his name, Al Durago. I mean, it's clearly a film made by a few friends. So in the different stories, this guy Al Durago, if I'm getting his name right, he appears many times, and you start to recognize him in different roles. And then there's this other guy as well, who apparently they didn't know him before making the film, but when they met him for the film, he ended up being pretty heavily involved in the film, and so you can see him a few times as well. And then maybe a couple of other actors who appear a few more times. But yeah, so Satan's necklace, Al Durago, he becomes possessed because he finds a necklace. And then I don't want to say too much about them, but that's sort of the premise. He finds a necklace that ends up possessing him. And then the second one is like a revenge type story, which is told in a slasher way. So he mentions this in the commentary. I don't remember exactly what film he says that he was inspired by. The commentary with the director, Doug Aldrich, that is. So he clarifies, like, so this is something we made because we had seen Friday the 13th, or whatever it may have been. But he also kind of sort of says that it doesn't really make that much sense, because we know who the killer is, but we still decided to hide his face when he did the slashing. The second one is that's if you want gore, then the second story is the one to watch. That's quite gory. There's a lot of fun effects in the second one. In the first one too, but it's not really gory. Well, it is to some extent, but not really that much. The first one is more like atmospheric, and then the second one has effects. And then the third one is very goofy. I mean, the whole film is quite goofy. There's a lot of comedic moments that feel not necessarily unintentionally funny, some stuff like that too, but there's a lot of attempted comedy that it is what it is. I mean, there's a charm to it, I suppose. The third one is not really a horror story at all. It's called Level 21, and it's about this guy who he's obsessed with a game. He can't figure out how to get to level 21, and when he does, he is sent into the world of the game. But so that's more like a fantasy thing, and I don't know. I like this film because it's clearly coming from the heart. It's a do-it-yourself production. It's very charming, and it is entertaining. and they obviously did put some work into it. And again, like I said about Limbo, you have that thing of its time element to it, because it's again shot on video, so it looks like a VHS tape. It looks very much homemade. Yeah, how would one explain the look of like a shot on video film? It's kind of very bright, kind of ugly, very little depth, I suppose. But there's something about it that I quite like. So that's the film. Now the commentary, I assume that he recorded it for the Blu-ray. I don't know. It's not really specified. As opposed to this, which had a commentary with Annie Choi and Joe Siemba. And again, I'm sorry if I'm getting the names wrong, but the people who were working over at Bleeding Skull and or AGFA. This one only features the director. It's only him talking, and it is quite entertaining. It's kind of low key, but it's not one of those commentaries where the director, he doesn't know what to say, so he's quiet most of the time. He does talk throughout the whole thing. A lot of it is kind of explaining what happens on the screen, but he also shares how they did it, what inspired it, and so on. So it was okay. And then the demo version I already sort of talked about. Outtakes and vintage TV promo appearances. So the outtakes, I barely remember them, to be honest. It was a few minutes of blunders, I suppose. Vintage TV promo appearance. This one was fun. It has the three of them sitting, Doug Ulrich, that is, and then Al Durago, and then I forget his name, but yeah, they met this guy, like I said before, when they were shooting the first segment, which ended up being the second one shown, the slasher segment. They met this guy, and then he wanted to become more involved in the film, and so they let him become more involved, and he ended up being in this, I think, all three stories. And he's also in the interview. So it's the three of them. It's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of local news station, perhaps. I don't really know. 5-10 minutes long, and they talk about the film they're making. And this one I would really recommend checking out. It's a really a fun little appearance that seemed, I don't know, it was entertaining. I don't know what else to say about it. Early horror shorts by director Doug Ulrich. Now they're very rough. There's no real audio. You can't really make out the lines, and so I didn't actually watch much of it. I watched the first couple minutes, which is like some kind of Exorcist remake with Reagan in the bed, possessed, and then kind of fast forwarded a little bit. Didn't really feel like this was something I wanted to watch. It was very rough and very. It looked like something he shot when he was a kid. I'm not sure. But anyway, and then I think that was about 45 minutes long. And then the bonus movie, this is one of maybe the most interesting featurette here, because it's actually Darkest Soul 1994, follow-up to Scary Tales. So it's about 60 minutes, so just a little bit shorter than Scary Tales, but pretty generous to include a bonus film. And it was actually quite good. I saw it last night. It's not a horror film. it's about, again, El Dorado and this guy who to me looked like a Chris Farley lookalike. But anyway, they sort of there's a funeral in the beginning. It's sort of made clear that they're a little bit down and out. Perhaps they have these two friends. They have these dead-end jobs that they end up being fired from all the time. So they have 6 or 7 jobs at fast food restaurants within the course of 3 weeks, and then eventually they decide to give that up, and then they find out about somebody says to them like, I have a job for you as grave diggers, or not grave diggers, grave diggers, I suppose, working at a cemetery. But what they end up doing at the cemetery is stealing jewelry from corpses and then selling them and so on. And then, they get into drugs, or one of them do. And then it ends with the only scene of actual horror, which is maybe the best scene in the film. It's actually quite good and quite surprising. but it ends very abruptly. But I would say that Darkest Soul, with all of its inconsistencies and so on, I really liked it. I enjoyed watching it. I had a fun time with it last night. So, all right. So these are the two ones that I've seen so far. I'm gonna come back whenever I've seen the other two, or one of them maybe. We'll see. But anyway, the video keeps going. So I'm sitting here editing the video. I've just finished it, and I've realized that I haven't talked about this one. I thought that I talked about 3 of them. I don't know why I wouldn't have spoken about this. I may have done that and forgot about the clip somewhere, and I can't seem to find it. I don't know where it is. But Wicked World is the 3rd one that I referred to as having seen. So obviously Drug Stories is the one that I haven't seen. Wicked World, it's been a while since I saw this. I did just notice that Things was available for an okay price online, so I might be getting that soon. But Wicked World, I was very in depth about those two. It must have been a few months since I recorded that. I'm not going to be as in depth about this, because full disclosure, I am a little bit tired and I don't remember everything about it to the same extent that I remember those two, and I just don't really feel like it at the moment. But it is pretty safe to say that this is an absolutely insane film, and it does pain me a little bit to be so brief about it, because you could talk about this for longer than I talked about those. This is a completely bizarre, almost unreal film, not just unusual, but it's completely out there and bizarre in such a way that it becomes almost ethereal. It becomes something completely unique, and something that I haven't seen before, even among films that I've seen that I consider to be bad but entertaining. This one is it's hard to put into words. It's so bizarre. I already said that, but it's so bizarre to the point where it appears that Barry J. Gillis, he filmed stuff. There's been some I don't know if this is true, but some theories about maybe him filming it in one order and then not really editing it a lot, but simply letting the film play the way he filmed it, which would explain some of the inconsistencies and some of the things that don't make any sense. There are so many weird moments here that I can't imagine what he was thinking when he did them, but I love that he did. And the movie opens and ends in a really odd way. It opens with this, it's got a bunch of things going on. There's a couple people having sex, or then I'm not sure if they're having sex or if they're just making up, but they're clearly being very intimate on a couch. And there's this guy sitting right next to them, looking at them. And then, if I remember correctly, the guy looking at them, was he the brother of the woman on the bed in the couch? I mean, he could have been. I could be misremembering that. Maybe it wasn't quite that sick, but I feel like I remember that for a reason. And then, a couple of people dancing, and then on the outside, completely visible outside, like on the porch, somebody's lurking, like a killer is lurking, just standing there. And then he ends up killing the people, and there are some really cool, actually, inventive effects when he shoots them or when he stabs them. This kind of flashing effect that he adds on the screen as they're killed, and this kind of blood running down across the screen somehow that he made. And then the film just keeps going into even weirder territories. I don't even know where to begin. It doesn't make any sense. It's really entertaining. The ending, it seems like he worked on this and didn't really want to stop working on it, because in the end, the credits, they just keep rolling. It's like he doesn't want to end the film. It's like in the end of the Return of the King, they have like 7 endings. It's like that, but completely unjustified, and everything happens in the credits. Just quotes from himself, just repetitions of the credits, and a bunch of fonts flashing and music playing, and he could have cut all that out, because it doesn't have any place in the film, but it becomes clear that he was pretty sincere with it, as off as it is, and that's really all I can say about it right now. It's very odd. I actually recommend watching the Red Letter Media segment about this, unless you want to see the film, of course, which I would recommend. But just know what you get yourself into. It's very very odd. It's even odd among films that are odd. What does this have? Yeah, I said as much in the unboxing, behind the scenes documentary, and what else did this have? It had a couple things that I remember thinking it wasn't completely obvious from the back that it contained those things, but I forget now exactly. There's an interview with him anyway that I think he made himself. Yeah, man, Wicked World defies words. They attempted to explain it on the back here, but it really does defy words.